Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Behind the Grind. So, today I am going to be ranking all of the operations maps in Space Marine 2 from worst to best. Now, before we get right into this, just go ahead and leave this little disclaimer. These are all the maps ranked that we have gotten in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 as of patch 9.0. Patch 10.0 has been revealed for the September update coming to the game next month, and they did not reveal a new operations map, so I figured I would go ahead and make this video now since we're not getting a new operations map in the next update. So before we start, if you guys could go ahead and smash that like button, I would greatly appreciate it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and start with our number 9 spot. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. The worst operations map in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 is Obelisk. So we got Obelisk as the second brand new operations map to Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 all the way back in the month of December, and ever since the release of this map I've been nothing but disappointed. So not only is it another chaos map that is on Demirium, the gameplay doesn't necessarily change, and the only new thing they brought to this operation, exclusive to this operation, is the stupid part in which you go ahead and grab the little beacon of light in the dark tunnels, and one player from the squad has to carry that in order to keep the influence of chaos at bay, and so it doesn't damage you. So I can see the intent of wanting to switch up the gameplay, to which I give it props. Like, they did try here, but in execution it just totally fails, man. And there's a section at the end of the mission in which you have to align the different islands that aren't always consistent, and sometimes it looks weird, and playing this map with randoms is a complete and utter nightmare because they will mess it up every single time if you're not communicating with your team as to when they should stop rotating the islands. Now, the part in which you have to go through the dark tunnels carrying the beacon of light is pretty much the entirety of the mission. You get a small introduction section at the beginning of the map in which you fight some chaos here and there, and you're making your way towards the tombs. However, once you make it there, that's pretty much the rest of the mission. Once you get out of these dark tunnels, at the end, you reach the part in which you have to align the islands, and you're fighting through chaos all the while, until at the end, the biggest disappointment with this map specifically is you just fight another lesser sorcerer. So this map does not have a boss battle. People will make the argument that the lesser sorcerer is a boss, but if you have played this mission and if you're actually passionate about Space Marine 2, you will accept the fact that the lesser sorcerer being a boss battle here is nothing less than an insult to the player base. So yeah, that is Obelisk, man. The worst map in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. It's terrible to play this map every single time. I dread going through those dark tunnels, having to carry the beacon. So I try my best to avoid this map at all costs. Ever since I beat every single map on absolute difficulty, I have not played through this map once. I only went back to play this level so that way I could get gameplay footage for the video, and well, it's pretty safe to say that I will not be playing through Obelisk anytime soon. So moving on to our number 8 spot in the ranking list from worst to best, we have the map Reliquary. So once again, this is another chaos driven map in which the main objective here is to take out the Silver Tower for the Thousand Suns and kill their Helldrake. And you know, once again, man, this map is just, I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. This is not one of the good maps in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Now, I will go ahead and say this right now. I am not a Reliquary hater. Okay, like, I don't absolutely despise playing through this map. I will play through this map, but going up against the rest of the maps, this one just doesn't really stand on its own 2 feet that well. This map not only has some pretty boring objectives that you have to do, but it has a really disappointing boss fight at the end. So basically, the whole gist of this level is that you start off running around the tombs in the beginning of the operation, and as you proceed, you go ahead and go deeper and deeper into the archives on Demirium, when you have to escort a servo skull and you have to find objectives hidden around the map. So it does include some RNG, which will take up some time. It could be quick, it could be slow. It just really depends on the RNG and how long it takes you to find the objectives. Now, once you guys dig yourselves out of this hole, you will find yourselves on the dreaded bridge, man, going to the Helldrake boss fight, which is just pain to play through every single time, man. Like, this bridge part, bro, like, I absolutely despise. Not only are the fire hitboxes wonky all the time, but you get enemies attacking you all the while, and so sometimes you get stuck on the bridge when the Helldrake comes and unleashes its hellfire, and it's just a never-ending cycle of death, man. Like, it's so stupid to me that you have to hide behind these little barriers to get protection from the fire, and then even then it'll still find a way to hit you, dude. So like these things, like, they don't even work half the time, man. And this fire will just down you so fast, and it's just, at the end of the day, it just doesn't make for any fun gameplay in my personal opinion, dude. And moving on to the boss at the end of the mission, dude, like, the Helldrake is kind of whatever. I was personally a little disappointed with the Helldrake because you essentially have to push buttons in order to make it weak, and then once it's weak, you can actually shoot and damage it. I would have rather liked to have had a boss that doesn't require me having to weaken it and just being able to use something else to weaken and destroy it. You guys will see this common trend with another boss later on in the video, in which you just use like a little gizmo to weaken it and then you can actually damage it, which is just lazy in my opinion. Give us real, actual, tangible boss fights, dude. Nobody likes this little gimmick trash, and especially not in a game like Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2, where the gameplay is front and center. Let us play the game, let us fight the boss, find a better way to do it. And in Reliquary, the way we fight the Helldrake is just not the way. Imagine how cool it would have been if you take control of one of the dreadnoughts, or you commandeer a dreadnought and you use him to take down the Helldrake. Like, you give him a command and he shoots the Helldrake down. I think that would have been pretty awesome. So yeah, that's Reliquary, man. Not one of the great maps in this game, in my opinion. Coming in next at the number 7 spot, we have the map Termination, which was the first map that we got post-launch for Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Now, this is another Kadaku-based Tyranids map, so you will be seeing the exact same environments that you would be seeing in another map like Inferno, and personally, to me, this is just a worse version of that map. So you start off in the jungle and fighting Tyranids, yada yada, whatever, and you make your way to the inside of a facility in which you basically have to charge different consoles. You have to reawaken the consoles, and you just kind of have to hold in place and defend. So it does have some pretty cool, interesting moments, but those objectives only really exist in order to prolong the actual operation. So you just kind of go to objective A, you reawaken objective A by holding in a specific location, and then you go to objective B, and it's basically the same thing. Once you get out of this specific facility, though, you will move on to the boss fight, which is the Hierophant Biotitan. Now, I do not like this boss. This boss, to me personally, is the exact same as the frickin' Helldrake from Reliquary that we just talked about, dude. So, essentially, in order to damage the Biotitan, you have to charge up the last cannons, and then you have to take the little designator, you have to point it at the Biotitan, and only then will it start to take damage. I think that this is pretty boring. Imagine how cool it would have been if you could actually call in like some ordnance from like space to rain down on it, or if you had like a ship come into like low orbit, or if it really entered the stratosphere and just kind of hung around, and essentially you found a way to damage the Biotitan with use of the ship. Maybe the ship would pick you up and you man the giant cannons on the ship that way to take it out. Maybe that's asking for a little too much, but hey, at least it's something better than just kind of pointing and shooting again. Like, you don't even get to damage the actual Biotitan you yourself. You have to use the last cannons, and to me, that's just pretty disappointing. Like, I rather would not have had a boss to begin with, because the Biotitan isn't a boss in my opinion. You just point and shoot at it with the last cannons, and it's just pretty boring. So all in all, Termination, just one of those maps, dude, that just I don't care to play with. Once again, I only played through this map to get footage. I haven't touched it ever since I beat all the maps on absolute difficulty, because there's just no reason to. It's not a fun map. It does nothing new except for the Biotitan, I guess, but the thing they did do just isn't interesting in any way, shape, or form. Moving on to the number 6 position in the list, we have Fall of Atreus. Now, this is the point in my rankings in which these maps are more enjoyable for me to play. I don't dread playing any of the following maps, except for Obelisk, Reliquary, and Termination. Every single map that I am mentioning from this point on is actually pretty enjoyable to me personally. And, well, with Fall of Atreus, you basically start in the mission and you go down the little spiral staircase, and eventually you find yourself supported by the man Valtus himself as he's fighting off all of these heretics, man. And like, just playing alongside this dreadnought just really adds to the gameplay, and it makes it a lot of fun. How cool would it have been though if you would have been able to take control of that dreadnought though. But I'm not complaining with anything about that, man, especially not in this operation because, well, that's not necessarily the point. My complaint for not being able to play as a dreadnought is mostly in siege mode. However, you play through Fall of Atreus and Valtus helps you, and you got all these cool space marines fighting up against all these heretics. Eventually he escorts you to where you need to go, and you guys kind of separate for a little while. You do your little side quest until eventually you link back up with him, and you hold off all of these heretics coming towards you in a pretty cool like siege moment, right? Like this moment in this specific map feels a lot better than the actual siege mode because you guys are just holding this little spot of terrain and you're just killing all these heretics that are trying to take over. And so eventually you guys find yourselves in this little section of the map. This is like the end section of the map in which you have to essentially charge the batteries, and you have to escort this little battery and just take it to where it needs to be charged until eventually you can put it in the actual console at the end of the mission. Now, this train section, while not anything crazy, does make for some pretty interesting situations, as one person needs to be able to maneuver the actual battery by escorting it because it will not move unless there's a player right next to it. And another player actually has to use the control console in order to change the direction that the battery is currently traveling in. So it takes up the attention and focus of two of the players, and so that'll usually lead to one other player just kind of running around back and forth and fighting off enemies, so that way the other two can mostly focus on the objective at hand. And while at the end of the day, while this map does not have a boss battle, it does have a lot of cool gameplay. I like playing alongside the dreadnought, and I also like the end portion of the mission in which you have to escort the battery. So yeah, good map all in all. I'm not a hater of Fall of Atreus. Definitely the best chaos only map. But moving on to our next spot, we do have number 5, Ballistic Engine. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. When the game first came out, Ballistic Engine was my least favorite operation, man. Like, I hated playing through this thing, and I think that the sandstorm that'll catch you when you're outside was definitely one of the contributing factors to me not liking this map. But it really has grown on me, and that has to do with just the essential gameplay that this map has to offer. So as you start off the mission, you're outside, and you get, like, sand dust everywhere, and well, one of the positives of this map is that it's Tyranids, so you will be fighting Tyranids all the way through. Essentially, you just raid this Adeptus Mechanicus facility because you have to launch a train that has a nuclear warhead into the Hive City. So you're moving along on the outside, and eventually you get inside of the actual Mechanicus facility. And what you have to do here at this point of the mission is, it's just like Termination, where you kind of have to capture points and you have to let them charge. And once you're done with that, you will get to the best part of any of these operations, in my opinion, where you're at the end of the mission and you just basically have to charge objectives once again, but all the while fighting a huge Tyranid swarm that is trying to kill all of your space marines. And so what I do like about the operations the most is when they really have you stay in a specific location and they just let the enemies come to you. I've been very vocal about my disdain for siege mode because it doesn't actually feel like a legit siege. However, the end portion of Ballistic Engine really captures what it feels like to hold against an endless swarm of Tyranids. You can use the trains to run the Tyranids over. You can shoot down at the bottom of their little piles, so that way you can get them off of the walls. And all in all, Ballistic Engine is a really cool map, man. It has really interesting visuals. When the game first came out, this was the only map that had these kind of visuals because all of the other maps and environments in this game didn't really use this desert setting until we got exfiltration recently in patch 7.0. So yeah, that's Ballistic Engine. I like playing this map a lot. It's definitely one of my favorites now, and that is why I rank it in the number 5 spot. Moving on to our number 4 spot, we have Vox Liberatis. Now, all 4 of the following missions are my personal favorite missions. I could play through these any day of the week. I could play these over and over, and I will not get sick and tired of them. Now, Vox Liberatis, I do rank it at number 4. This is my personal favorite operation, though, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. So, objectively, I put it at number 4. Subjectively, though, this is my favorite. So, the reason why I like Vox Liberatis is because A, the environments are really nice to look at. You're playing through Avarax in this Hive City, so it really captures the feeling of Warhammer 40k. And 2, the biggest reason why this is my favorite map in the game is because you get both Tyranids and Chaos in the same exact map. There are even times on this operation in which you will find both of those factions fighting each other, which is what this game needs the most in this point of time. I thought that Siege mode would have both factions fighting each other and that it would be this all-out warfare, because you guys know with Warhammer 40k, the best part about this setting is having all of these different factions fight against each other. And so in Vox Liberatis, you start off fighting the Tyranids until eventually you roll up on the heretics, kind of having this little weird freaking seance here. You thwart their operations, and then you fight against both Tyranids and Chaos as the mission progresses, man. And so it's just a lot of good fun. Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 needs this a lot more, and I've seen a lot of people become more and more vocal of this fact ever since Siege mode came out. But the way this mission basically is structured is you start off fighting the Tyranids, and you make your way to this really cool scene in which you see the Tyranids trying to breach the Thousand Suns defenses. Now, once you see this, the objective of the mission changes to where you have to destroy the Thousand Suns defenses, and once you do that, the Tyranids kind of basically roll right into them, and they have a hard time fighting against the overwhelming number of Tyranids that are just tearing through these Thousand Suns. But at the end of the mission, you go up down this elevator until you reach the boss for this mission. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, the boss is a little disappointing. It's just another one of those bosses that isn't actually a boss, but it's a demon host, and what you have to do is you have to capture all 4 of his points and then he will die. So that's pretty much it. It has a lackluster boss, but the gameplay in this mission is the best objectively in my opinion, even though I rank it at number 4, because you get both the Tyranids and you get the Chaos Thousand Suns. So that was it for Vox Liberatis, man. I love this mission. I play this mission all the time. If you guys are on my stream, I have to play this mission at least once every single stream. And yeah, it's just a really good map in my opinion. Moving on from Vox Liberatis, so we do have coming in at the number 3 spot, Inferno. So Inferno is the very first operation that most players will actually play through, because canonically it is the first mission that ties into the campaign. Now, Inferno is just a really OG map, dude. Like, this is the essential OG Space Marine 2 operation. It has great gameplay, it has good scenery, you're running through the jungle killing Tyranids until eventually you make your way inside the facility, and what you have to do is defend like the batteries and stuff. All the while the Tyranids try to attack it, and you progress through the mission until you reach, in my opinion, the best part once again of any of these operations. At the end, you find yourself basically holding off against this huge Tyranid swarm that is breaking off from the main attack horde, and they basically try to kill you because your objective in this mission is that you are going to destroy this entire horde that is kind of disrupting operations on Kadaku right now. So you guys are holding on. You see these Tyranids running towards you. You can light up these flamethrowers and stuff that come up from the ground. And well, this is just probably one of the best gameplay heavy moments in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. This is what makes this game good, is when you're just holding a position and you're shooting at Tyranids that are coming towards you. You're throwing grenades to get them off of the walls. You're opening up the flames to burn the Xenos, man. And like I said, this is one of those really good Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 operations. It's one of the best, if not the best, to some players. This is a lot of people's favorite map, and what can I say? I have nothing bad to say about Inferno. This is just a great map. If you've played Space Marine 2, you know that it's a great map, and you really can't disagree with me in the fact that it's a great map. Maybe you disagree with my placing of it, but for me, it comes in the number 3 spot. So coming in at the number 2 spot, we have Exfiltration, which is the most recent map that was added to Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 with the release of update patch 7.0. Now in Exfiltration, this is the most unique looking operation that we have had in the game, because just like Ballistic Engine, whereas Ballistic Engine doesn't necessarily feel all that different, even if the map looks different, it still essentially plays the same as all the other maps. Exfiltration, on the other hand, just plays entirely different. So you start off and you have this Trigon that is just stalking you and trying to kill you and your squad, and you're out in this desert outside of the outskirts of Avarax. And so you're in this desert, you're trying to get across, and the Trigon is just basically following you from underneath the dunes, and it's just trying to kill you the whole way. So you have to stick together with your team in order to evade the Trigon and not get killed. After this, though, you find yourself once again in another Adeptus Mechanicus facility, and when it comes to all of the interior facilities for Space Marine 2 operations, it is my opinion that Exfiltration just has the most detailed interiors that I've seen in the whole game. You have piles of Tyranids that are dead, you have a lot of different colors that really contrast well with each other. You have red lights that are going off that really bring this interesting hue, as opposed to the other really green bluish lights that really sell the intense feeling that you are inside a facility that is currently being under siege by a bunch of Tyranids. So you complete a lot of minor objectives within this actual facility until eventually you find yourself going up against the Trigon in an actual boss fight. Now this boss fight is pretty interesting to me because you do get to damage the Trigon the whole time, but you do get access to some Melta-Bombs, and so the Melta-Bombs are used whenever the Trigon emerges from a hole, and just like in Gears of War, the Trigon will open essentially what is an emergence hole, so that way Tyranids can come out of that hole and really spawn from that. So you use the Melta-Bombs to close up that spawn point for the Tyranids, and in this mission, actually, before all of this, you get a little bit of practice doing this, because there is a part of this mission in which you have to close the Tyranid tunnels that are opened, and you have to use the Melta-Bombs to essentially close them. So it's really nice to see them really set up this boss fight and teaching you that this is the way that you have to deal with this specific issue, and it's good to see it in the boss fight once again because it makes it all the more interesting. It's not only just the Trigon, but you do have all of these other Tyranids that do attack you, and it just switches up the gameplay because you have to focus on not only dodging the Trigon, but you also have to close the Tyranid tunnels. So this is a really good map, dude. Exfiltration is one of the best maps in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 right now, and I really can't get enough of this specific map, man. Out of all three of the post-launch maps, Exfiltration is definitely the best one, and you guys already know, if you have played through this map before, that this is definitely one of the better ones. But with that being said, man, we get to the #1 spot, which I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. We have Decapitation. So this map just knocks it out of the park in every single aspect. The environments are great. The mission layout is awesome. The enemies are amazing because it's only Tyranids. And the final boss fight is an actual boss fight, just like in Exfiltration, that you actually get to fight. So the way Decapitation is played is that in the beginning of the mission, you will find yourself making your way essentially towards this specific area in which you have to place charges in order to destroy an objective later on in the mission. So the whole point of this mission is that the squad is tasked with taking out the Hive Tyrant, so that way you guys could destroy the synapse link in between all of the Tyranids that are currently launching this assault. So once you place all of these different charges and the bombs are in place for the actual ambush, eventually you make your way to my favorite gameplay section in the entire game after the banner section of the campaign. When you're playing through the campaign and Lieutenant Titus says, you know, in the name of the second company, yada yada, and you basically hold that position. In Decapitation, you're on this bridge and you're holding this essential overlook to the bridge, and you're basically holding in place while you await for the Hive Tyrant to show up in order to ambush it. The swarm launches an assault on your position and you have to hold off, and given enough time and you kill enough Xenos, eventually the Hive Tyrant will show and you execute the ambush and you let off those bombs that bring this huge statue crashing onto the Hive Tyrant. Now in the mission, you think that you kill the Hive Tyrant, but as you guys already know, nothing's ever that simple. And so the Hive Tyrant gets away. But I just really want to talk about this specific section of the mission, man. You get all these Tyranids just falling all over the place, just swarming your position, man. And if Siege Mode was literally just this map and you have to hold off against endless hordes of Tyranids, I don't think anybody would complain about that, man. This is definitely where it's at when it comes to that hold your ground and kill the Xenos gameplay. You're going to get a lot of that in this specific mission. But moving on from this bridge section, you find yourself currently in pursuit of the Hive Tyrant. You actually see him crawling around the place. He's obviously injured. He's trying to get away until eventually you meet him in his boss arena. And This is a great boss fight because you can dodge his attacks. Some of his attacks are parryable. You can damage him the whole time. You don't need to have any extra gimmick. People can just shoot at him and actually deal damage. This is a two-phase boss fight. So once you go and deplete the first health bar, then you go on and move on to the second health bar, which the Hive Tyrant gets access to some new attacks. He deals a little bit more damage. And once you kill the Hive Tyrant, that's pretty much it, man. And this operation is really fun to play. It's one of the faster ones to play, if not the fastest. You can get through this one really fast and easy because there's no part of the mission in which you have to wait for any objectives to charge or anything like that. You essentially place the bombs, you hold off the bridge and injure the Hive Tyrant, and then you go and pursue the Hive Tyrant, and that's it, man. So this is definitely the best operation in Space Marine 2 right now, and I'm sure that a lot of people can agree with that, which is why I put it in my #1 spot. So, what did you guys think about this ranking? What would you change? Do you agree with this specific list, or do you disagree? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. It took a lot of effort to really gather all the gameplay for this specific video, so I would greatly appreciate it if you guys go ahead and drop a like and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Also, if you wish to support the channel further, I'd encourage you to join the channel membership for exclusive perks. I'm so grateful for all the members, and your generosity is extremely appreciated. You can go ahead and click the link in the description down below and in the comment section to join the channel membership for $1 a month, man. I think it's pretty worth it. I appreciate all the support, man. You guys are the best. And yeah, at the end of the day, thanks. This has been Behind the Grind, ranking all of these Space Marine 2 operations from worst to best. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!